giving you a voice,
making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun.
But our next topic, story number 2, is going to be a follow-up on the FRC blog. That blog post was talking about motors, controllers, and MXPs for the 2019 season. Some of the new additions for 2019 include automation direct relays for actuator control, the Vigilant DMC 60C upgraded motor controller, and the really exciting stuff that I think is going to dominate our conversation here, the Robotics Spark Max motor controller and the Neo brushless motor. So we're going to start with Michael. What pops out to you here? What is this all going to mean for teams?
What I care about the most is the moment when I read it and it had the same sim mounting. For me, that excited me so much. Now I can take all the gearboxes that I was playing with before, do a quick drop-in replacement. But the only downside is I didn't have an opportunity to have it in my hands. So, and it's not anyone's fault. It's my own fault. Yeah, keep adding more in that quantity. I only ordered 10 this year. So hopefully it gets to my place in a timely fashion. And I'm really excited. I want to put him in 2 practice spots. I want to drive him around on the carpet because I have a feeling that's roughly what we'll be playing on next year. And I want to push it. So for me, I'm a real hands-on guy. I know there's no motor curves out yet. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Not yet.
Not yet, right. So as of look at that PayPal number. but the only thing I can I'm really excited for is a speed controller also. I want to push them all to the limit before the first day.
For sure. I think that's actually what some teams or folks who can get them in their hands are already doing. Ben, any insight on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 225 right now has several of these in hand. I think Tyler's going to pull up a little bit of the video that was shot earlier today of us using these motors. One of the
breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. One of the really interesting things about these brushless motors is, and maybe Jim or others can talk more about the physics about why this works here, but the acceleration is much better on these particular motors than the 3 mini sims that we have. What you see that's running right now is 225's robot from this year. It's running the brushless motors instead of running 3 mini sims. It's got 2 brushless motors per side. Yeah. So it's 2 versus 3. Yeah. And if you saw it ran the auto at the beginning of this little snippet here. So the acceleration, I don't know if anyone's, seen our auto before. It doesn't wheelie. And this is a drop-in replacement for that, where essentially what we're doing is just doing the same stuff. It's just doing it with 2 of these instead of 3 mini sims. And it's, the acceleration's better. Obviously it's lighter weight. It's a lower footprint, lots of little adjustments there. Obviously, people are still working out the kinks. That's why we have beta teams, but it's definitely showing to be a very, very strong solution here. It's looking very promising. On the speed controller side, one thing that my teammates on the ground have noted that they really, really like is the USB-C stuff. In particular, the fact that you can connect to the motor with the USB-C and just run it from your laptop as opposed to having to hook up CAN and everything else in order to do that. Adjusting specs with the motor controller that way. It's loading firmware with the USB-C. All that is something that they've noted they've really enjoyed with these things. I'll answer the questions about what I know if anyone's got them here, but by and large, it seems to it seems to be the real deal from what we're looking at here. So congrats to Rev for getting this together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know the one question in the chat that I'm not sure if you can answer this immediately or if we have to tag a 225 member in the chat, but what's the gear ratio and wheel diameter on that robot specifically?
Sure.
If you know.
Yeah, it's 6-inch wheels. It's going between high gear and low gear, obviously. The high gear is about 9-1. I forget what the low gear is.
19.61 to 1.
Oh, they've got it right there. There we go. Yeah.
And the other thing from the chat is that bin had the bin that they're pushing around had 125 pounds in it. That is a push as if you were pushing a robot.
Hey Ben, were you running any acceleration ramping on that robot?
Yeah, it's the same sort of stuff that that 254 does with the motion profiling. So we do acceleration ramping for accelerating toward the scale, and in this particular case, obviously, it's accelerating more than it was when during the season.
And were you doing any ramping that was tied to the height of the elevator?
No.
Okay, just curious. Just about the wheelie coming in, I'm wondering how much of that is due to the motors and how much of that is due to the change in weight going from 3 mini sims to 2 Neos.
It could be, yeah. That could be a factor as well.
Can we talk about the most important aspect on here? This fun screen in the background, Ben?
Fancy.
Sell out. This looks really cool. Ben, thank you so much for sharing that. And 225, thanks for sharing your research. I know there are other teams with doing some testing. And if you are one of them and you have information to share in the chat, please let us know. Jim, your insight on our new motor and speed controller offerings for 2019?
Yeah, I think it's really great. Again, we want to talk about Brushless DC a little bit for anybody who's new to the topic. You can get considerably higher power densities out of Brushless DC than you can out of a Brush DC, basically because it's a synchronous motor. One of the big differences is it requires a speed controller in order to work at all. With your sim motors or your 775 motors, you can just grab a battery, hook it to it, it will spin at its free speed. Brushless motor will do nothing. It will just phase lock. It requires a digital controller like the new Spark controller in order to make it work, but you can get considerably higher power densities. And I think it's really great that Rev took the plunge and made something that is bolt-in compatible with previous FRC designs. We have all these de facto standards evolving in FRC, and the sim mount has turned into one of them. We've got a sim, we've got a mini sim, we've got 775 adapters. Now we've got a brushless DC motor that all have that same 8mm shaft, that same 2-inch bolt circle. And I think it's really great because teams who get these can then immediately start experimenting with them. Like you see, drop them into a pre-existing robot, a little bit of software upgrade and controller changeover, and you can immediately be running with Brushless DC. It really has revolutionized a lot of stuff in the handheld power tool industry that we use in a lot of factories and things. And you start seeing coming into affordable power tools now, from DeWalt, Milwaukee, and all those guys are all starting to switch to Brushless DC for exactly that reason. You get more power and more efficiency in a smaller package. And it goes great. So now if we can just get someone to make us a great, lithium ion battery, we would have everything we've ever wanted, right?
And then we'll have to come up with a whole new list of all the things that we've always wanted this whole time and no one gave us.
I'd go with an updated radio too, Jim.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
is coming, apparently. That is coming.
The fact that I can't connect the battery to it, I did not know that. That is because that's something what we do in the shop to prototype right away.
Right.
We'll just and now you just saved me, I don't know, probably a half a day to try and figure out did I get a defective motor? Who got the motor out? Change it again? Who charged the batteries? No, that's so.
These are terrible. And then someone's like, "No, you just plug it in and then you control it from your laptop. How easy is that?" I really like
I'm
that.
so happy. Yeah.
In terms of being able to control, like, oh, I just need to test something. I just need a prototype. I get a little antsy, nervous as like sometimes the only mentor who thinks about safety over testing. That's like, oh yeah, like I plugged into the motor controller and I did this other thing. I'm sure there's stuff in place. I admit I haven't done as much research as some of you guys have on this, so I'll wait for y'all to tell me I'm wrong, but I'm like the teensiest bit antsy that like someone's gonna try to run through USB-C in a way that like is not necessarily the safest. So like that might be something teams have to watch out for. But I love the idea that there is a new piece of tech we're giving our kits, our teams, everything like that, just all sorts of new goodies. I'm overall very happy. Karthik, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great addition to the FRC motor family. Like years ago, I was kind of the philosophy, like, hey, we have too many motor options, and I'd love it if we just like everything was just all sims, just all one motor. But like I think the Neo is even a better candidate for that sort of world. I love the form factor. I love the data that we're seeing from the initial testing from 225, from 2655. I'm sure there's more other beta teams out there who are going to be revealing stuff. Yeah, and I'm glad that there's beta teams, period, who have this stuff, because realistically, like the suppliers can only do so much testing, and the more hands these are in, the better. And I would love to see these get broken repeatedly this off season. So by the time the deep space season starts, that teams get a more finished, refined product, especially on the speed controller side. I'm curious to see how many teams are early adopters with this stuff. Because like this is a big change. This is very, very different. And if teams are going to be plopping these in their drivetrain, I think everyone, not everyone understands, but people should understand that the drivetrain is like a mission critical system of your robot, and it cannot have failures. So is there a risk in adopting early technology? I think the beta tests are going to tell us a lot about that. But I have a feeling that there's going to be some teams who don't want to take that risk, and I think that they could be a little bit behind in terms of what we're seeing with like acceleration and the motor performance of all this stuff. So it's sort of cool, and like I think that this has the potential of being the next revolution in robot design in FRC. And we kind of had, the first revolution would be in 2005 when Andy Mark came out with COTS products. And then in 2013, we had the other revolution when Vex Pro really kicked the COTS market into gear. The Versa Planetaries just kind of changed everything for everyone. But now these brushless motors, I mean, there's a lot that could be happening there. So congratulations to Rev for making this happen. Thank you to Rev for making this happen, because I think this is cool stuff for all of us.
Something I just want to come to mention is Rev has told us that we will be getting some of these products to give away on air for later shows as well too. So stick around for that.
Sweet, that's a great giveaway from Rev. One question we got in chat, or just more of a comment, hey, if something goes wrong, we could switch back to the sim easily. Yeah, you definitely the form factor's there as long as you leave the room on the back end and you make plans for whatever change in motor controller and encoder mounting, because these guys obviously have an internal encoder and sims don't. And there's all that going on. So, but yeah, so that's great stuff about the Neo motor. I think maybe years from now we'll be saying that this was actually a bigger deal than the other announcement that happened this week in the world of First.
Thank you to all of our co-executive producers, keeping fun loud, live, and independent. Pledge your support at patreon.com/first updates now.